All right, everybody, welcome. We are again just waiting for the last people to log in. Of course, everybody comes one meeting to the next, as we all do. So, trying to give that couple of minutes of grace period for people to log off and log on to their next meetings. So, we'll start in just about 2 minutes max. In the dynamic world of enterprise resource planning, the quest for more efficient, accessible, and integrated data solutions is never ending. As businesses increasingly migrate their operations to the cloud, the challenge of harnessing critical operational data in real time becomes very difficult. For those of you entrenched in the Sightline cloud databases, HubData emerges not just as a solution, but as a game changer. By facilitating the extraction of data from the cloud and seamlessly integrating it into an SQL database within MS Azure, HubData mimics the accessibility of on-premise databases, but with the added benefit of cloud computing. Don't hear it from us, hear it from Gabriel G. from Exobionics.
Absolutely game-changing, to say the least, because now we have access to a lot of the back-end Infor data that we wouldn't otherwise have. Being able to have like the Hub Core partner with Pontus and Raghuram especially, we built some really cool tables and have built trial balances and different things so we can actually pull data out of our system, summarize in really succinct ways, and actually get our financial planning tool up and running relatively quickly.
Now let's dive into the webinar and we'll show you how. Welcome, everybody. We're excited to have you here to hear about the launch of HubData and really game-changing, as Gabriel said, a new tool for people who are on-premise and also cloud, of course. Today, we're going to have Gary Moyle walking you through really what was his baby to launch. So, Gary, over to you.
Okay. Well, welcome, everybody. I'm going to do a PowerPoint presentation for you. We do have a long time to cover a presentation that will probably last 15 to 20 minutes. So feel free, don't hold back, don't enter your questions in chat, although you're welcome to do so, of course. But if you can, please ask that question when it's topical in the presentation. And let's see if we can get some healthy debate going as well today. But you're welcome to use the chat as well, of course. If you're a little shy and you like to type your question, that will work as well. So I'll begin. Having said hi and shown you my face, I'll drop off camera now for you. So let's share my screen and let's get on with the presentation. So we're talking today about tools that will help. Oh, wrong one. Hold on. Let me swap that over. There we go. So today we're talking about one of these two tools. In further sessions, we might talk about Eureka as well, which is in the top right of this slide. But today the topic is HubData. And we're going to talk about an alternative for the provision of information that really some customers of Sightline are struggling with, perhaps. And as you heard from Gabriel, being able to access that in a more familiar manner. And that's really what we're talking about today. So let me just move on through the presentation and get some color to it. So many of you are aware of this tool. It's called HubCore, and it's an integration tool, okay? We're going to focus on only one piece of this, of course. So the HubCore tool is meant to be an integration tool from many edge solutions into your Infor ERP system. But today, we're not talking about HubCore. The idea is to focus on one of the edge solutions that exist on the periphery of this wheel, and that is HubData, okay? So many of you are IT experts, I would gather, so I hate to put this slide up, but basically there are many types of databases out there. We as, let's say, the Infor family have really focused deeply on SQL. That is the underwriting database of Sightline, of course, and as long as you're on version 7 or more. And that's really what we're focusing on today, is being able to get access to a SQL database, okay? That's the key to this. So what do we have and what are the challenges, whether you're on-premise or cloud? This argument will be presented differently, of course. So if I have an ERP transactional database, and we'll call it Sightline today, and that we're in with the Sun members, of course, I have a bunch of people working on my transactional database, entering purchase orders, receiving goods, creating invoices, and the list goes on, right? We want very, very responsive capabilities out of that database so that we can respond quick, get our job done quick, and that's what we all expect. That's what we've all enjoyed also for many, many years. Well, now a new requirement is coming in, and that's really around reporting. And reporting today is very different to what it was 10 years ago. Typically, we were happy with list reports, black and white, delivered dead on arrival, as we call it, right? There'd be PDFs, perhaps. They wouldn't be manipulatable. And they're very visual, and they're very intensive on that transactional database, potentially. So you ask big queries, right? And this, overview word is called business intelligence. Analytics is another common word. And it really is putting new stresses and strains on our transactional database, pulling a report saying, give me the invoices for the last day, and printing a list of those reports really was quite straightforward. So we probably know, if you're in an on-premise world or in the cloud world, you would split these databases, of course, right? You wouldn't have your transactional database and your reporting database sharing the same resources. Well, this is the same concept, right? So we're talking about creating another database, very separate from the one that you enjoy today from Sightline. Because what happens when you want to share the same database with your transactional users and this new world of heavy, very heavy business intelligence and analytics? Well, everybody suffers, right? Nobody gets the answer they want if you continue with one database. So basically everything grinds to a halt. Everybody gets frustrated. So for those who are embarking upon a business intelligence, perhaps, path, we need to solve that problem and create an alternative for you. So what we've said is, let's leave these guys over there, all these people creating purchase orders and running financial reports and all of that type of thing, and let's create a separate reporting tool for you. Okay, so that's what HubData is primarily. So now when I've got this, I don't have the challenges of speed anymore. I'm not actually working with one database. I'm working with one or potentially many databases. So we're separating the two, right? So now I don't have the slowdown problems. Let's all the guys on the left enjoy their transactional system, and let's have the guys on the right running pretty heavy business intelligence, visualization, and analytics tools. Now, what there is, obviously, is we need to pump the data, right? So this is the tool. This is the magic source, of course. So we need to get that data out of Sightline, whether you're on-prem or in the cloud. It doesn't matter to us, actually. Technically, it doesn't matter. But we still have to pump that data from the transactional ERP into this repository, okay? And that's what we've designed here. So we've designed the pump, if you like. So who have we chosen for our infrastructure? Well, we've chosen Microsoft, and we've chosen a cloud provider there who sits in the top right, of course. So many of you who are familiar with the Infor ecosystem will know that Infor have gone strongly down the AWS route, Amazon Web Services, and why not, right? One would argue they're the leader. But really, you've got Microsoft and Google. They're all fighting for leadership in this space, and they're all credible cloud hosting solutions, of course. And if you believe Gartner, who many of us should and believe we do, this is their independent view of who is in the top right, who is leading this space. So we here at HubCore decided to put our technology in the Azure platform, okay? A leader. Arguably, if you go left to right, they're a little bit ahead of Amazon Web Services, which is the vision, the ability to execute. Amazon's been there longer, and they're a little further up the curve when it comes to their ability to execute. But definitely any of those three, one could argue, will go on and probably dominate the marketplace. So we chose Microsoft Azure for that reason. What have we got in the technology stack here that we can take control of? Well, this is wonderful and really something that Infor are already promoting with Sightline, of course, and the Infor operating system and Burst and Data Lake. And you're probably familiar with all of those phrases. And Infor have a great strategy in the same direction, right? This is not meant to be a competing product with Infor. It's meant to be an alternative, right? So it's very similar. It's based in the cloud. We chose Microsoft Azure for this. And why did we choose Microsoft Azure? Well, you can actually have single tenant or multi-tenant, phrases you might be familiar with, of course. And basically, this is access to SQL. Okay, so today with Infor, you don't get access to SQL, of course. You can see the tables. We all understand that, but it's not access to SQL in its own right. Some of us have withdrawal symptoms. I'm one of them. I've had on-premise databases for decades, and I've always had access to SQL, and I've had that removed. Now, if you're still on-premise, you still enjoy SQL, of course, but we're trying to bring that back for you. It's a service, right? This is not something that you go and buy a box from Dell or HP, right? This is storage as a service. It expands and it collapses, and it doesn't use what we call hard metal, right? It is serverless in all of the information we would recognize. It's serverless storage. Lastly, it's in elastic pools. Again, very familiar to many of the same directions Infor are following. And this pool of capability will stretch, right? That's the idea of the elastic pool. So the idea is you don't have to go and size a server, right? I bought a server, I spent $20,000 on it, and oops, it wasn't big enough. I spent $20,000 and I use a fraction of the capability of the server I bought. All that goes away, right? This is actually a tool that's provided by Microsoft Azure, and it creates elasticity. So if I'm not running reports, maybe it's after 5 p.m. and I don't come back into work until 8 a.m. Well, I don't have a great deal of need for that server. Although I purchased it, I paid good money for it, I'm really only using it for a fraction of the time, right? Which is maybe when I'm pulling my BI analytics, which is a hot topic for this data that we're talking about today. Elastic pools means that Microsoft Azure can offer this at a great price, of course. You don't have to worry about infrastructure. You don't need to worry about resource. And when you do press the button and say, hey, please do a deep analysis on my data that's in this server, well, again, the pool goes in the other direction. It expands dramatically and reacts without you having to invest in being able to get that elasticity from all of the servers that are sitting in the Microsoft Azure cloud, of course. Microsoft today, some would argue, might be the leader. I think that might be a stretch. But artificial intelligence, everybody's talking about AI. Everybody's talking about machine learning. Is Microsoft the leader? I don't know. I would say they might be in the top 3. But choosing Microsoft today for artificial intelligence is definitely backing the right horse in the artificial intelligence race. Now, there's other people like Google, Tesla, for example. You hear a lot of people talking about who's leading artificial intelligence. Well, Microsoft are one of those. So if we have a strategy and we want to follow artificial intelligence, being in the Microsoft tech stack is definitely the place to be. There are many flavors of this storage, by the way, and a lot of this will come and go, right? A lot of these are buzz phrases. They last a year or two. But right now, Microsoft have everything that we could possibly need. A data warehouse, that's been around for a while, maybe 30 years or so. Data Lake has been something that gets promoted a lot, certainly the last 5-7 years or so. Lake House, that's interesting, right? A lake house being a variation. A Dataverse, these are all buzz phrases. They make me laugh as well, as you can tell. But the bottom line here is Microsoft are really leading the way for data storage, cloud platforms, and they're all available to us, to all of us, to you and all of us who are enjoying the Microsoft tech stack. So again, we're with a leader who is pretty much promoting the way. This is all part of the reasoning why we chose to create this tool and put it on Microsoft Azure. What do we have? What is an elastic pool? You heard me mention that. Well, if I had a single server and I run my analytics at 12:05 and 12:10 and 12:15, that really is a pretty awful use of a very advanced server, right? I spent a lot of money on this. It sits in my air-conditioned room, but really I'm only spiking and using it very rarely. One database is the picture you're seeing up there today. But what if I could put 4 databases on that server? Well, it's still a little lumpy, I think you would agree. Different people at different times of the day, asking questions of the database, analyzing my data. It starts to make a little more sense at 4 databases than just having my own server, which is the first one. But what if I had 20 or 100 or 1,000? Well, now it starts to make sense. This is the elasticity question, where the system is flexing based on all of us across all the time zones, all around the globe, and sizing things where the elastic pool will allow me to enjoy the resources when I need them without paying for them and letting them sit idle. Okay, so this is a commercial reason why this is a great idea as well. What have we got here and what are we getting provided? Well, everything on the left is provided by Infor today. Okay, so I could have an Infor ERP system, and today we're talking about Sightline, of course, on the far left. And then we also have the tool sets, especially with Sightline. We're lucky enough to enjoy the Mongoose tool set, all the APIs that come with that, and they're getting stronger. Anybody who was at the Sun conference a couple of weeks ago will also have seen the investment in the APIs, which is very exciting as well. And then if you're in the cloud, you also have another, let's call it middleware for using the word that is not too popular, but Ion is predominantly a middleware between your ERP system and the rest of the world, of course. And our solution doesn't care, by the way. So we don't care if you're on-premise, hosted, cloud. We can extract the data from any of these Infor technology stacks, right? And this is really the main play here is you don't need a bunch of partners to work with you. We have this tool. This tool's existed. It's going into its 3rd year now, which is HubCore. And that acts as the pump in this way. So a couple of years ago, this was designed to pump data to third-party edge solutions like Salesforce, like Magento, like Concur, all these solutions you need today. So it already existed, to be honest, based on something we invented several years ago. And that's the tool. That's the proprietary tool that actually pumps the data from the Infor world to HubData, which is based on Microsoft Azure. We've just talked a lot about that, of course. So this is what we're proposing. This is what we're talking to you about. And why would I be interested in that? Well, the real proposal here is we are experts in all of this. So we've invested heavily. And clearly, we have been a Sightline partner for quite some time. We got to grips with the cloud. We got to grips with Ion probably 5+ years ago. We actually have the proprietary rights, of course, to HubCore. We wrote that's ours. And now we're Microsoft certified partners as well. So we have the skills, we have the Azure skills, we have the DBA skills. We actually have, for example, if you wanted to look at Eureka, which is not the purpose of today's, that's a BI tool. Which would be an option from Burst, for example, right? If Burst isn't for you, you might have had a strategy or you might be developing a strategy down the Power BI route, which is the #1 BI tool in the world. And we have those skills on site. So what we have is an end-to-end solution where you can just come in, ask us to handle all of this for you from data extraction, middleware, and populating all your data to Azure, maintaining that data for you, of course. So that's really the story today. And that's what we wanted to talk to you about is the HubData capabilities of taking your data from legacy on-prem solutions, perhaps, or from your cloud solutions where several people are challenged with their reporting, and putting that into a familiar SQL database, giving you full access, total privacy, multiple opportunities to drop your solution of choice. So, you may create that and you might drop another industry standard business intelligence tool on that. There are thousands of them, by the way. You might drop an FP&A tool on the top of that, financial planning and analytics. So, there are many, many tools. All we're saying is We want to make it easy for you to move the data from Sightline ERP into that repository and then do with it what you wish. Maybe you still use SSRS, right? I mean, that was a beautiful thing in its day. Why not? Why not just move your SSRS reports and plug them into this database over here? So that's it, Larissa. There wasn't many questions came there. But if they're either in the chat or people want to open their lines and talk to me or ask me questions, please feel free.
Thank you, Gary. That was very short, brief, and succinct, as we like.
Indeed.
Team, that was very quick. If you have any questions, if you would have any questions about the BI tool, or the fact that when we have the testimonial from Gabriel, he wasn't using, Power BI. He was using his own BI tool. So there's many different ways to go about this. So please, any questions, let us know. If not, feel free to drop us a line, Gary or myself, at any time, and we'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Yeah, one thing I would like to do there is talk about Gabriel, who was kind enough to share a few words with us. I'm going all the way back. Sorry, this is a little bit painful. But yeah, that was a great example of a customer who wanted an FP&A tool. And he created data. His chosen system, by the way, was Data Rails. And he doubled down on Data Rails. It was his choice for his financial systems. And he came to us and said, you know what, I can't connect in the way I would like to my data. He's a cloud customer, by the way, Sightline Cloud. And he basically had already doubled down in this direction. So he'd had heavy investment in Data Rails, and he asked us to create a HubData for him. Okay, and that's what we did. So we pumped the data from Sightline into Azure, into a SQL database for him. And then he found it incredibly simple to connect his Data Rails solution, which is up here, and allowed him to put his tentacles in there with ODBC and all the familiar things we're used to. And as you heard him, it was a game changer for his business. So just an example of what he did from this wheel. He used Data Rails. And it wasn't a decision he took because of us. He took the decision to use Data Rails many years previously, and then came to us for the challenge of how do I get access to my data. Sorry, I interrupted somebody there.
Not at all, not at all. And when it comes to pricing, basically, you do need to contact me if you don't mind, because sometimes there's different parameters, but it is not expensive as far as it's a monthly cost, but it is not an expensive monthly cost for the HubData tool, just so you know. But it does depend on what you are, some parameters. So we do those one by one at this point. And I'll put my email into the chat, and just please shoot me a quick one, and I will be happy to work with you on any kind of pricing questions that you may have. And so, we are doing a Eureka, which is the Power BI pre-built data tool that we have developed. We're doing that webinar on the 22nd. If anybody would like any information prior to, please just reach out. Happy to do any kind of demonstrations for you. We'll be posting a demonstration on the back end of our website. If you do not have access to that, please reach out to me. I will get you access. That is where we host all of our live material as far as our webinars, our recordings, our demonstrations, etc. All right, Gary, well, I think that is going to make it for a short 25 minutes today.
Okay, well, thanks for inviting me, Larissa.
Yep. Any final questions before we sign off and wish you a good day? All right. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.